And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Kanell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate. Oh, baby. Lots to get to here on a Monday. We do have, upon further review, lots of notes from across the country, late night action, and more stuff that we didn't get a chance to get our eyes on. We have some notable injury updates. We'll be able to take a look at the changes in the top 25 with, of course, Poll Assassin. But I wanted to begin with some thoughts from the road. DK holding it down in Ann Arbor. Y'all had a sweet tailgate spot right beside the stadium. Let's go like part one, vibes, scenes, and then of course also, what you got a chance to see with your fancy schmancy sideline passes for one.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was really cool. It was a little daddy-daughter trip. Took my 15-year-old Dylan with me out on the road. She had a ball Friday night. We hit up the little block party they had where they shut down the street, little State and Liberty right there. Got to do a little shopping, just feel the vibe, feel the energy. There was quite a few Cover 3 fans sending out shout outs. We did have a, hey, day trader Danny. We had that. Some guy called over and said that. Talked to him for a couple minutes. Couple dudes yelled out, hey, I shot a 74 from the tips. And I, had to ask him, did you lose money too? I had to ask him if that was it. But really, really fun. The other thing that was kind of funny is I've been pretty vocal about the Connor Stallions saga that's unfolded, an asterisk I would personally probably throw on there. So not every Michigan fan is in love with your boy here. Have you guys seen the Wolverine Stormtrooper? Do you know who that is? He's like the fan. He comes on that, anytime there's a game, they show him on TV. So he was around our set. And so I got a picture with my daughter with him. And then I got a picture with him. And some guy came up and like whispered in his ear. And I could tell he was like saying, this Kanell guy's no good. Like I could tell he was trying to get him to do something. And he's like, no, he's welcome here. And he said it with like the modulated voice, like a stormtrooper does. So I was like, yeah, that's my Wolverine Stormtrooper looking out for me. The
Wolverine Stormtrooper actually is Connor Stallions.
It might be. It actually could be. He actually has cards, like little football cards. He passes them out when you're there. It was hot, way hotter than I thought it would have been. The humidity was up. Like it was 85 and not a cloud in the sky. Like, so that was very much a factor. The Wolverine, or so I should say this, the big house, is it quiet? Is it loud? Is it all that? It's definitely something that bothers them. And it's definitely something that's not their fault.
What? Explain.
The way the stadium is built just screws them. Like it just is straight. Like if you see the aerial shots, you can literally see how far out that they go. So there's nothing that keeps the sound in. It is not for lack of effort. Like they are, and it is like we saw it impact the game, and we saw it impact early in the Texas game. Like when it is loud, it is loud. I mean, I think anytime you have over 50,000 people yelling, let alone 100,000, like it's going to be loud where it impacts your ability to hear and operate. But like, I still wouldn't say I didn't leave there thinking, oh, that's a top 5 loudness. Atmosphere is awesome. Like it was great. It's just, it's not as impossible to hear at some other stadiums. And that's not a knock because they were sensational. They were up on their feet the whole entire game. It was phenomenal. So yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time. Absolutely phenomenal. And they really do. It was really interesting too. Most people before the game were asking, who'd you pick? Who'd you pick? And I'd be like, well, sorry, I think I'm going with the Trojans. And they were all like, yeah, I get it. Like they were almost, if you would ask them, who are you picking? They probably would have said USC also, just because the vibes around them were such concern about the offense and what it would look like and what happened against Texas. There was a very tentative atmosphere that I think the longer they were in that game, like the more excited they were that, oh my gosh, we could actually do this. And they did. But it was phenomenal. It was a ton of fun.
So where were you when Mullings carried 14 Trojans defenders down the field? Were you sitting there on the sideline? Do you have a good view of it?
Hold on.
Because it was like that when we in the I know we're not supposed to be like discussing television stuff. And that's all above our let's go.
So a decent view.
But like
decent view.
The drama of that moment is like exactly what you would want from being able to get USC and Michigan on that stage. Like that kind of theater was bananas. So
palpable. This is stuff like movies are made of. It really was. And the back and forth nature of the game. I was right behind the other part. I was sitting with Aaron Taylor, like underneath the goalpost early in the first quarter when Mekhi Lemon got knocked out on the punt return.
Mm-hmm.
Saw it all unfold. Like before anything, like you saw him go down. He had kind of the hands in there, like sleep. Like it was just, we saw that like right in front of us. My daughter was like, is he okay? Like, is he going to die? Like she was really like worried about him. I'm like, no, sweetie. I'm like, unfortunately that happens sometimes in football.
Yeah, unfortunately we ask that about 4 times every Saturday.
Right. Exactly. But it was really cool. And you know what else? We had some of the suits over at our set from programming. I won't throw them under the bus, but let's just say they might have been more nervous than Michigan fans because they wanted to see a game that was tight. We have had some blowouts on our air at 3:30, the brand new package. I didn't see them after the game, but I guarantee you they were in high spirits. Like they definitely had to feel pretty good about the outcome.
Zach in the tailgate with a great call. Nestler called an incredible game as well. That's what I'm saying. Like it felt really, really big and really fun. So awesome that you were able to be there, providing all the coverage for CBS Sports HQ, a big one. And then Trojans are going to be back on CBS this week, announced on Sunday. Wisconsin at USC will be the 3:30 p.m. kickoff for the big time on CBS. All right.
Can we talk about how quickly these teams are assimilating to the Big Ten, though?
How? Explain.
USC's first conference game, they lose to a team with 32 yards passing. Washington goes from playing like all these 52 to 49 games last year and in the last few years, and their first Big Ten game is a 24-5 win over Northwestern. It's just like, it's welcome to the league, boys. This is what it's going to be forever.
It's not even the weather either.
No.
Washington, like, that could, maybe somebody would be like, oh, those cold atmospheres are going to slow down those offenses. Nope.
Just saying, Washington fans the last few years looking at teams struggling to score against Northwestern saying, oh man, we're going to tear this league apart. 24-5, guys, at home.
All right. Every single Monday, we like to take a look at some of the changes in the college football rankings, and we do it. Shout out to Jeff Banks with a little thing that we like to call Polls House. New AP Top 25 poll had some teams tumbling. Okay. That among them included a 10-spot drop for Kansas State after imploding in Provo, as one does. Oklahoma dropping 6 spots after that loss to Tennessee. Oklahoma State dropping 6 spots after that loss to Utah at home. Some of the big moves up included a big jump for Michigan, as expected, after the win against USC. Louisville moving up 4 spots after beating the first team with the pulse, and just skyrocketing from way off the radar. BYU Cougars now 4-0 for the first time since 2012, checking in at number 22. Tom Fornelli, you had the joys of Sunday duty at CBSSports.com on the news desk. That includes the full breakdowns of all the polls. I'll let you get first word here. Anything stand out from the movement?
I was, I don't know what's right. I was excited, I guess is the right word. No, excited is not the right word. I was pleased to see the response to Missouri struggling for the second straight week.
Great point.
We have seen, like, a lot of times the poll mentality is if you keep winning, they just leave you where they are. But they responded. Like, the voters actually moved Missouri down after a second straight kind of lackluster performance, but they didn't, completely kick them out. They're still 4-0. They should still be ranked highly if you really thought of them that well before the year. But moving Utah ahead of them after a win over Oklahoma State, moving Miami up a couple spots, Ole Miss and Tennessee swapping. So to me, that was really, it was another week where the top 10 really didn't suffer any losses. So I didn't expect there to be any major shakeups. So in a week like that, it would have been easy for every voter to just tick everything where it had been. So to see them actually think it through and say, you know what, gonna ding them a little bit, move them down. I was happy to see that.
I don't really have very many problems with this. I mean, it seems like moving Michigan up, good. Moving USC not too far down, also good. Like those teams just played a game in Michigan, and Michigan won by a single score in which they also had a defensive touchdown. If they played tomorrow on a neutral site, you would take USC over them, but you should reward Michigan for winning the ball game as they did. So, yeah, I think it's intelligent voting that they did not drop USC. Oklahoma State should not be ranked. You just lost.
Thank you.
Like,
let's get them out.
Let's be real here. You looked like crap against Oklahoma State against Arkansas for much of the game, and that's not good. Oklahoma, look, think about the opponents Oklahoma's played now. I mean, Temple's really bad. Cincinnati just shut out Houston. Tulane was in a war with ULL for quite some time. So I don't really think Oklahoma, based on what you've done so far this year, should be ranked. But again, we know the AP poll is kind of like an amalgamation of power ratings and resume ratings and gut feel. And it's just kind of all mashed together. Nobody votes exactly the same way.
Blatant homerism sometimes too.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I don't know what Ole Miss has done to be rated above Miami or Penn State so far. Like they've faced nobody, and they have an opportunity to move up if they would like to and win. Like this weekend, if you smoke Kentucky, like Kentucky is not good, but they at least have a pulse.
Yeah.
Right. They have some athletes on their team. So far, you haven't faced anybody with athletes.
This is where, like, I think they're getting better, but like in the truest sense of the word, if you wipe the slate clean and just did on resumes, how did you look? I like Missouri, I don't think you dropped them low enough. If you just went off how they look against some of these opponents, I also don't know if they're given enough credit to Illinois or Indiana, like who's not
definitely
ranked.
not Indiana.
Right. Like Indiana, and then if you compare that to LSU, who looked okay against UCLA, but like that was at home. And if you look at what Indiana did to UCLA on the road, completely dominated that game. And they don't have a loss. Now they've only played 3 games, so I get it. But like, I just think there's still a lot of it that comes from preseason perception, and it still benefits certain teams and certain leagues way more than it does others.
Speaking of LSU, this might be a good chance to go ahead and address this big news for the Tigers, as star linebacker Harold Perkins is according to our own Matt Zenitz, expected to be out for the rest of the season due to a knee injury. There's like the first thing that came to my mind was a lazy take. Like, I'll admit, like there's a very easy was like, oh, LSU's defense wasn't good. So what? But he was a superstar athlete. I don't know. Like, how does LSU? How is this a loss for LSU? How does LSU replace him? How does this change your expectation for the Tigers?
I did not downgrade LSU's defense without Harold Perkins.
Right
now, I think
he hasn't been a superstar. He is he has star qualities because of his athleticism and because of how it looks when it flashes. And so
star
it's like
potential.
Star potential. Great way to put it, because there is, there are moments in college football games, especially when you're in the SEC or the Big Ten, when you just need somebody who has that like truly unique 1% athleticism to show up and go make a play. Perkins is that kind of player, but on a down-to-down basis across the entire body of work, there has not been enough to say that guy is an All-American. Or
across two different defensive coordinators too.
Yeah. And like across the entire body of work, there's not a lot for you to be like, oh gosh, you're pulling him out. The defense is going to collapse. You're already dealing with a group that had some weaknesses, but I don't know, still feels like in the very best games later in the season, if you at least are missing the opportunity to have him be able to go out there and do something special.
He has 1.5 tackles for loss in 4 games.
Yeah.
It's just he had showed it. He was highly rated. We talked about it out of high school. He showed plenty of potential his freshman season. He just really hasn't capitalized on it. And some of that could be usage. Some of it, I don't know. But it is one of those things where the potential is still there. It's just, let's see it. And it's like, when I do, it sucks that he's out for the year, because I don't think it helps LSU's defense to not have that talent on the field. But whenever I've watched, I've always been slightly underwhelmed.
Yeah,
But he had the game against Arkansas where he took over, and everybody talks
Mhm.
about that. It's like that guy. There is somewhat a lot of groupthink in our sport, right? Where you see that, you hear that game, and everybody starts latching onto it, and then like you project superstardom on somebody. It's probably not the right time to be talking about this because we hate seeing him lost for the season. He's an incredibly young, talented player. But as far as how it impacts LSU's defense, I'm kind of with you guys. Again, it's a tough loss for depth, but it's not like you're losing Will Anderson Jr. You know.
One other quick injury note that stood out. We have not gotten a chance to address it here, Tom. I'm going to let you sort of guide me here, especially with the big game coming up this weekend.
I'll take you through.
All right, thanks, buddy. There you go. KJ Winston out for Penn State. Very, very good player for sure. And as we're look at Bud nod there.
Really good player.
As we're looking at, Penn State starting to get into the meat of its schedule, it has handled itself well. Go into West Virginia, you look good, knock out a few more non-conference wins. Now they gotta welcome a monster on Saturday night in the Fighting Illini. And so what's our adjustment or what's the expectation without KJ Winston?
I mean, it's Bud kind of said it with his expression. It's a big deal for them. He's a good safety. He has played very well for them this season, and now you're losing somebody who has been one of the bedrocks of your defense so far this year. And you're facing a team that has had quite a bit of success throwing the ball so far this year, so that could become a problem for you. I still think this is a team that has a lot of talent and has depth. So while you're losing him and you're losing his experience, and that is valuable, I do think that Penn State is one of the few Big Ten teams where it's like you kind of think there's a decent chance that they've got somebody behind him who may be a little raw, might need a little more game time to get things figured out, might not be the best atmosphere for him to be starting their first game. But you do think long term, I think the Nittany Lions, if Winston's gone for a while, will be able to withstand it and at least get things figured out, because they do have a lot of guys at every single level on that defense. And year after year, even through different defensive coordinators, they have produced a lot of good safeties under James Franklin. So I do think that there is a formula in place there, and it sucks. And there's no way to say it's good news for Penn State, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for them to overcome.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
How is the Illinois tight end? Do we know? He went down in the game, and they lost a kid preseason, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost Cole Rusk, who was their transfer that came in. That was supposed to be their pass catching tight end. They lost him before the season started. Arkin, he got bent over backwards, kind of just awkwardly. I don't think they expect him to miss time. I think it was just one of those, "Ow, this really hurts," and then a couple minutes later, you're okay.
They're a little bit better spread formation team than I thought they would be.
They have good receivers, man.
Yeah. Bryant and Franklin make you think about things.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get a little.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We got a lot
tomorrow,
of time.
right?
Yeah, we're going to be back on CBS Sports Network 2 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, back in that regular spot where, as we take a look at some of the biggest games ahead in the Big Ten, we will be breaking down Illinois at Penn State and Wisconsin at USC. How the Badgers might have had the off week to get reset, of course, without Tyler Van Dyke, how USC gets up after the emotional loss, all those things coming up. CBS Sports Network, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, and you can catch it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast on demand. Coming up on the other side, going to take a look at a quarterback wide receiver duo that lit up college football this weekend, and more of our Upon Further Review next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
And now it's time for the Hellman's Stacks segment, where we discuss the best performing quarterback and receiver duos from this past weekend, brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Mayo game day, be delicious. Tom, where would you like to turn your attention for this week's Mayo Stack?
I'm going down to Oxford, where Ole Miss is at it again. Jackson Dart and Trey Harris just have that kind of, connection in their minds. They know where each other is at all times. They know what each other's about to do. They had connected for 11 times for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns in Ole Miss's 52-13 win over Georgia Southern. It's a really difficult duo to stop, and we've seen it week after week, and we're probably going to continue to see it week after week.
It was a really, really tough go for Bo Nix Hall of Fame, being on the other side of the Jackson Dart, Trey Harris stack. A big part of my fantasy team in the Cover 3 Fantasy League. Got a little 44.7 from Dart in that matchup, and then Trey Harris coming through with another 40. So when you're getting 85 of your 251 points from just 2 players, it's, look, it was tough because Bo Nix Hall of Fame putting up a nice 208, but
yeah,
it's tough when you're on the other side of that. So,
it would have been nice if I would have got the stack that I wanted and had Shedeur and Travis Hunter, who was pretty good stack themselves, and Travis Hunter again going off. What do you have? 135, 130 something, 7 catches. And then he was the decoy on the Hail Mary, which, by the way, I listened to the reaction pod. I thought you guys were a little subtle on that play. I don't know if it was quite as wild. It happened while you guys were on air, right?
Yeah. So there's a great screenshot that shows all of our faces freeze in the moment because we were live when it happened. So yeah, no doubt. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, another fantastic stack, both over the weekend and each and every week. And this has been the Hellman's Stacks segment, brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Just like these quarterback and wide receiver duos, tailgate snacking and Hellman's mayonnaise make the perfect combo, bringing out the rich and creamy taste in all your game day dishes. So give it a try, and Mayo game day be delicious with Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. Shop at your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store and add some extra deliciousness to your game day dishes this football season.
By the way, is the bet ended? Is the curse
should
lifted? Is the
Tom
curse
lifted it? Tom lifted it.
One running touchdown. He still hasn't thrown one though, right?
Oh, he won a game. He
won a game.
Yeah, he won a game.
He didn't throw for a touchdown. They scored like 27.
No, there's only one rookie quarterback in the NFL who's thrown for at least 1 touchdown. In fact, he threw for 2. 363 yards, the most by any quarterback in the NFL this season. Caleb Williams isn't scared of your cover 2 NFL defensive coordinators.
You need to stop trying to cram it in there on a couple of them, though. We'll say that.
Actually, when you look at the rest of his team, he needs to keep trying to cram it in there because it's the only hope that they have, right?
Did you see the blocking on the speed option?
Yes. I see that blocking every play, bud. That's what the offensive line looks like.
Like 4 yards in the backfield.
Yeah.
But the curse has been broken, and now it's the good luck charm. Like now this is a playoff beard. I mean, we see those hockey players with straggly beards. This thing ain't going away until Florida State loses. I'm keeping this bad boy.
You are? For real?
Is it done? That's my question. Am I free? Because I did get hit up from Brianna. She's like, we have some photo shoot. Like they do them like once every 2 years too. It's not every once in a while. Mm-hmm. They do the put on your suit and get like, what do they call them? What am I looking for?
Just your promo shoots, your
headshots. Your promo shoots, your headshots. So they're coming to do that this week. And I actually told her, I'm like, I don't mind the last one. Sometimes they want updated ones. I'm like, I do have a beard, which I don't really wear all the time. So like, it is important to know.
I think, you know what? Here, I will make you a deal. For karma purposes, you could shave after the shoot.
So it has to be after the shoot.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that if it's then.
Years, every little still shot of you that we use in our graphics and everything has you with a beard.
If I can't shave it if Florida State's on a winning streak,
True.
I'm not going to do that to the Noles.
Hey, listen, SMU, Florida State this weekend. Big
time.
game. Big game. Prime time.
Prime time. Who needs Georgia, Bama?
So we discussed we did discuss on Saturday Night Show. We gave a little bit of love to the Iowa offense and sort of what Caleb Johnson has been able to do in terms of really being able to make that group dynamic, which means, of course, on Monday, it is time for our update in the drive to 325. Mikey, can we see the updated list? There we go. All right, bud, talk us through it.
Look at all that green on the screen, man. Illinois State, 40. Like, they only missed Iowa State by 1 point. 38 on Troy, hit the number. Minnesota easily achieved what we needed. I mean, guys, if they get 6 after this bye week against Ohio State, they will still be on pace. Washington 30, Michigan State 30, which I still think is good. That Michigan State Boston College red bandana game was played in the monsoon, so kind of depressed scoring. I'm still a little out on this Michigan State defense. Northwestern 24. That one scares me because Northwestern might just score 2 and Iowa may just sit on the lead. But Iowa, come on, man, full throttle. Let's go. Drop the hammer. Wisconsin 17, UCLA 31, Maryland 27, Nebraska 17. I mean, most of these seem kind of doable.
I don't see anything above 34,
We don't need to be. We already got a 40 and a 38 in our pocket, dude. And we got a 31 in our pocket.
This is just a new.
I mean, they could get shut out by Ohio State. And I'm like, okay, let's go add a field goal to that Maryland game.
Just sort of redisperse a few of those along the way.
Can I share a few more lovely stat lines for Caleb Johnson since we're on the subject here?
Yeah,
I'm writing about this later today, so I've got them ready. Okay, so Iowa has faced more 8-man fronts than every other, non-service academy team other than Northern Illinois and Utah this year. Caleb Johnson specifically has 22 carries against defensive fronts with at least 8 players in the box. He has 229 yards for an average of 10.41 yards per carry against stacked boxes with 6 touchdowns. So even when they're stacking the box against him because they don't respect the run or the pass, Caleb Johnson is still jocking these dudes, or just juking these dudes out of their jock straps and taking off for long runs. He's having a fantastic season. It's not just the scheme, which helps. It's him.
Yeah, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the best back in the Big Ten?
Well, I think so. I mean, no, Quinshawn and Trevion will get plenty of love.
That's fair.
But I think outside of the elite, Ohio
outside
State,
of the playoff contenders, is he the?
Yes. Like, I'll talk about Ohio State later because we haven't really discussed them at all for reasons all season. But I would say outside of that, Columbus right now, he's the best running back in the conference.
Mullings, maybe what might like a word too.
Mullings, maybe, but I think Caleb Johnson
by the way,
is just destroying people.
Michigan might catch them, even though people haven't really only been one game with the new offense with Alex Orji. But I would imagine they're going to see a healthy dose of loaded boxes, basically on what they're trying to do. Teams
What
are
was
going to
their passing down success rate in that game? It had to be like 0.
Yeah, they couldn't throw the ball to save their lives in that game.
Yeah. And you could tell the crowd, like when there was a drop back, was like, like a little nervous.
So he gets a groan all of a sudden.
Just while he's in the pocket, it's like, oh gosh, please don't throw a pick.
Your mom and dad covering their kids' eyes.
I do have a Big Ten stat for you guys. That is
all right.
Look, I understand Kent State lost 2 of their quarterbacks and had to put in a kid with like a jacked up finger, and he only threw I think 1 pass. And that sucks for them. And it's a paycheck game, obviously. Like they need the money to keep the program going, and that's a really, really hard job. Like when Sean Lewis and those guys won 6 games, like we had them on the show, just like because it's basically the hardest job, I think, in major college football, with respect to like UMass and Eastern. But we might need to have a conversation about how we are handling some of these paycheck games, because I do think this is a uniquely bad experience when the team is just simply not trying. Now, should you try? I don't know. Like if I was Kent State's head coach, I probably don't try, because I know I can't beat Penn State. Like my best day, their absolute worst day, like Penn State could start a walk on and still walk to victory. But guys, they ran 22 seconds of possession per yard. per yard, not per play. Per yard.
Can you explain that to Danny and I? Because I don't.
It means for every second of possession that they had 1 yard for every 22 seconds.
Yes. They gained a yard every 22
seconds. The play clock is 30, so that means essentially okay, all right.
They ran 43 plays for 67 yards and ate up 24-19 of clock. Like literally, it's just run into the line, take the entire play clock down to 1, do it again. Like from the start of the game, too. I mean, they threw 13 passes total and they ran 30 times. Like basically Service Academy with like 0 rush success rate. I mean, the opening drive is a 3-and-out that takes 1:31. So like we're doing it from the gun. It's like, cool. We're just going to get this thing over with, get our check. The next one, they got a first down, 4 plays, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. So again, 30 seconds of play right there. Kansas State is on it. The next one, 6 plays, 4:10. So really like exceptional job there. 3 plays, 2 minutes, 14 seconds. So taking almost the entire 40 seconds on each. I mean, this is 5 and 14. So they hurried up and went 2:48 there. I don't know what happened. Got off script. And then the one right before the half obviously kind of screwed this up. 3 plays, 30 seconds total. But then we're right back to it. 5 for 21 for 3 minutes and 28 seconds. This is not a good experience as a fan.
It was the game plan equivalent of I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Totally.
So what do we do to fix it?
Yeah,
I was getting into it with Ohio State fans.
More conference games.
Agreed. Why?
Well, we probably do need the split. Like, I think that the split between the very best and the very worst in this sport is worse than it's ever been because we've added so many more teams. But like Kent State and Kennesaw is a new member of the FBS.
Because I was getting into it with some Ohio State fans last week. It was like, your schedule's cake, and they were upset. And they're like, oh, well, we subsidize or we pay these programs. And I was thinking, I'm not arguing the guys are not good or not. Like, you guys are awesome, but you haven't played anybody. And they're like, well, we have to fund these programs. State. We fund their programs. I'm like, well, why don't we just subsidize them? Just make a donation to these programs so they can keep their athletic budgets going because no one wins. The fans are the biggest losers, and they're like, defending it. I'm like, you guys are the ones that should be protesting, saying we want better games at the shoe.
And Tennessee did the same thing against Tennessee, by the way. It wasn't quite as egregious. And Tennessee offered to shorten the game, from what I heard, and Kent State said no. And the reason why you say no is because you don't want that on your record that you were so damn bad that they had to shorten the game as an FBS team, because then it might affect your ability to get checks the next time.
No, actually, it was because they were like, the clock won't stop anyway. Don't worry. We'll get rid of it in the next 4 plays.
or, and this is reckless, you need to finish 55 of the 60 minutes for all wagers to cash. And so if you do 10-minute quarters.
I wasn't going to go there, but all right.
Wow. Chip is alleging that Kent State is never.
No, I'm not alleging anything.
How are they funding that athletic department? Chip has ideas.
I am recklessly throwing information out there. It's just something to do. All right. Coming up on the other side, we're going to open things up as we continue to look back at the week that was, and upon further review, next. We love to be able to take a little bit of time, go back, get a second look at some of the games we didn't get full attention to. Obviously, there's some late night action that happens during the instant reaction show. And so that's why we take a little time on Mondays to go under the hood. There were terrible calls. Do we want to go ahead and jump in?
After further review.
All right. Mr. Elliott, Esquire. You're in a really you saw the clip of that Auburn pledge, y'all know the clip I'm talking about. He was sitting there, his head's in his hands, and he's like, man, we're going to have a lineup tonight. This pledge master is going to take this loss out on us. Buddy, this is going to be tough.
Be a peddling.
I'll be doing up downs for hours.
I was wondering where you're going to go with that. What punishment you're going to describe?
My experience was always calisthenics was at the core of it.
Yep, got to keep the cardio up. Agreed.
Yeah. So what's our what's our thought on the Auburn Tigers?
All right, so just some like wild thoughts with the whole Bo Wallace stuff. It does occur to me that Ole Miss is also recruiting Deuce Knight,
The star
quarterback committed to Notre Dame, but who keeps visiting Auburn. Like, if Bo Wallace doesn't have a whole lot of love lost for Hugh Freeze, maybe there's some ulterior motives there as well. If he's still into his former school, I don't know why any quarterback would want to go play for him. Type comments from Bo Wallace. Just kind of as a recruiting guy, I was like, interesting. It's also clear to me that on the other side of this is not a conspiracy theory. Hugh Freeze is not an idiot, I don't think. And he knows that Peyton Thorne is better than Hank Brown. Okay. And if you looked at his comments the week of the New Mexico game, it was pretty interesting. We discussed this on the show. Like, he was like, no, Peyton Thorne's our guy. And then all of a sudden he wasn't. And at the time I was like, I wonder if Hugh Freeze got some outside pressure to have to start Brown. And even though Brown wasn't good against New Mexico, he still ran him out there and lost him the game basically against Arkansas. And I think now they're probably going to stick with Peyton Thorne. So I wonder if that wasn't a little bit of like a so you think you know better, right? Type thing.
Like a game within the game.
And Peyton Thorne is more than capable of losing games for you.
Because a lot of Auburn fans thought that Brown was going to be a good player. But I have maintained on this show, and we don't bat 1,000, that Auburn knew they had to go out and get a quarterback for the 25 season because they don't think their long-term answer is on the roster right now. That's according to my people I talked to at Auburn. So clearly, like how Brown played kind of matches up with that against New Mexico, which is the worst defense in the FBS, in my opinion, and also against Arkansas, which played their butts off, I thought. So I don't know. Like maybe it's back to like, hey, I call the shots thing here. So a lot of just reading into motivations and things with this Auburn-Arkansas game.
The Bo Wallace screen grabbed tweets are real, right? Where he's like saying, Hugh Freeze, great, thanks for everything. Like, you really like the ones where he was showing appreciation from before. Those are real, right? Those aren't fake. Because it makes it look a lot worse. And it makes it Bud's point about maybe this is more than just criticizing a coach after a loss. It could be a deeper motive that's on the recruiting. That would make a lot more sense. Like, why all of a sudden is he out there getting it? The other insinuation, are you saying that it's from power players or the fan base?
That's my thought. Yeah.
Which
just the
way
it's Auburn.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That was a weird.
But I do think this is a new dynamic of college football that I think a lot of coaches are dealing with because they are stroking checks for the players specifically. They want to have more influence in when they play, when they don't play, when they're benched. And I think that's a really toxic dynamic that you could see unfold, which maybe we are right before our eyes.
Also, speaking of stroking checks, I fully expect Auburn to unload the money cannon for this 2025 transfer portal cycle, but it's going to cost a lot more now because there's a pretty good chance they go 4-8 or 5-7, and like that will cost more.
I had a weird vision before the show started.
Oh,
because I know Auburn might go after him, but I just had this thing of 2025 Michigan quarterback Jackson Arnold. Will there be a bidding war between Auburn and Michigan for Jackson Arnold?
I think so. I think there will be a bidding war for Jackson Arnold. I think a lot of people will still believe in his talents, and I know
Hawkins is going to be the guy moving forward.
I think Oklahoma really does like Hawkins. I don't think that benching was purely about, hey, Arnold is not the guy. Like, I know people who have been in Oklahoma, who are in the scouting world, and Oklahoma has talked up Hawkins, and like they knew, shoot, like this practice film is going to get out, and other people are going to see it. It's going to be way too expensive to keep this kid and Arnold in this offseason because guys want to start.
And they need to spend money elsewhere on the offense too.
Totally. I mean, neither quarterback had any chance.
No.
Like Oklahoma's offensive line is normally really well coached. I think Biedenbaugh does a great job. That was not a good effort.
No.
Like I mean, Tennessee
their ass kicked.
On some plays they whipped them, but on some plays they're just turning guys loose like crazy. And like this is weird. Like the mental errors were a lot.
There was an Oklahoma sentiment, an Oklahoma fan, and look, Oklahoma fans obviously were a little bit distraught. And I've got a note on sometimes being a little bit emotional and impacting your words here in just a little bit. A live update from Chapel Hill. So I saw an Oklahoma fan that was like, the in beaten ball we trust has kind of been like the marching. I guess we just always rely on it. But it's very clear this is a new conference and a different kind of defensive line that we're going to face on a week in, week out basis. And like, maybe you need to change the personnel, or it's just you cannot blanket assume that Oklahoma's offensive line is going to be great against the competition because the competition has changed.
I want to push back on that a little bit. Not
sure.
That
I'm
the
just
overall
sharing.
point is incorrect that person was feeling, but Tulane, Houston, and Temple aren't in the SEC, and you seem to struggle against Houston and Tulane. I don't think it's just an SEC problem. I don't think the SEC helps, but I think that's a little misguided.
I would say it's about to get uglier, but I don't know many, if any, SEC teams that have a better D-line than Tennessee. So it may just be more like it may be a continuation of ugly, but I don't know how much uglier it will get necessarily. Although I don't think Oklahoma's defense can play like this every single game. Like that was an all-in home run effort, special game plan, clearly confused Tennessee the way they played some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually Tennessee was like, damn, Venables is good. Like just screw it. They're not going to score on us. We're going to shut this thing down. We'll hit an explosive for 2. Let's just get out of here with the dub. And eventually I think they just kind of stopped, which is probably smart, right? Because Oklahoma can't score.
Yeah, back on. In Pole Assassin earlier in the show when we were talking about Oklahoma, like I don't know, I'd feel okay if I left Oklahoma on a ballot. They held Tennessee to 1/3 of the points that they've been scoring on opponents.
Yeah, 100%. That defense is really, really good. By the way, did Lincoln Riley figure out defense before Brent Venables figured out offense?
Sure seems that way.
I think so.
Yeah. Lincoln, I think Lincoln understood the assignment. Like I have.
Oh,
well, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go.
I've changed a long way from where I was at the end of last season in terms of like how long do I think Lincoln, like ask me to put a bar bet on how long I think Lincoln Riley's at USC. My approach to this at the end of last season is a little bit different because of the way that he handled this offseason. And I don't know, that's a really disappointing loss, and USC's going to have a challenge with Wisconsin coming to town. And we'll see by the end of a Big Ten schedule whether it shakes out. Maybe they are only like a half game over their win total and they're 8-4 at the end of the year. It's possible. But I think in general, the actions that have been taken and the way that we've gotten the early season results kind of lead me to believe that Lincoln's a good coach for USC. And I think that Lincoln is committed to trying to continue this project in Los Angeles.
I think it's
go ahead, Tom.
I think it's a two-sided thing. I think that it is accurate that Lincoln figured out defense before Brent figured out offense. But I also think it took Lincoln 7 seasons to figure out defense, whereas Brent Venables is in his 3rd. So maybe Brent makes a big change this offseason. Who knows?
Totally. Yeah. It's very possible. All Oklahoma needs to do is stay a little bit healthier at receiver and on the offensive line and do a better job scouting the portal at offensive line. Like they clearly missed this offseason on more than they hit. So
couldn't be my team.
Right. Look, Illinois is the beneficiary. If you put Spencer Brown on Illinois and you put
J.C. Davis, Melvin Priestley.
Like Oklahoma doesn't beat Tennessee with J.C. Davis and Priestley, but Illinois does lose to Nebraska if you guys didn't win that sweepstakes and you got stuck with the kid that Oklahoma chose over them, right? Like Oklahoma chose wrong and they are paying the price for it now. As a Florida State guy, I'm pretty familiar with choosing wrong in a portal after choosing right the prior season, and I can tell you that you can have
it's a crapshoot sometimes.
The consequences of my actions. Yeah, it's.
All right, just real quick on this. I know the tailgate was buzzing about it earlier. North Carolina's regular availability. Yeah, the Mac Brown 11 a.m. press conference was regular availability, but it did open up with his comments about the player. He did open up addressing the great reporting from Inside Carolina about some of the comments that he made to the players. He said he was, quote, disappointed in me. He said, I'm excited about the future and love my job, love these kids, and I love this place. And that's why I hate losing so much. Quote, I'll keep my mouth shut from losses now on. Also, this from Andrew Carter, the News and Observer. He said that he basically asked his players whether they felt good about him continuing as head coach. Mack Brown says he regretted doing that. Quote, I shouldn't have put that pressure on young people. And the message being driven home, he is not stepping down. Quote, even at 73, you can learn some hard lessons. So
don't you think this is one of those like post-game moments? And like, I think you've all been in the situation where you've had a coach who will say like, all right, and it's flipped. He'll be like, if you don't want to be here, then walk out that door. And it's kind of, it's a metaphor. I think he was probably saying the same thing. Like, if you guys don't want me as the coach, then I'll retire. Dang it! Like,
what happens if the team's like, "Yeah, get the hell out. We hate you, old man."
I think he was I think it was a motivational tactic to try to get him to buy in. I don't think it was serious. Like, he was thinking it would, and it would get leaked, which is probably maybe a sign of the problem here. I do probably think this definitely means it's closer to the end for Mack Brown, and that it's becoming much more obvious that he's going to retire after this season. But like this right here, I don't know. I think this is probably much ado about nothing.
Yeah, and I don't think the
result has much to do about nothing.
Oh, you think he would have? You think there's a chance he hangs it up before the season's done, like in the next month?
No, I don't know about before the season's done, but I do think that giving up 50-plus points in the first half and clearing out Kenan Stadium for a home game that should have been a win against a Group of 5 team, even if they are extremely well coached. I think that Bob Chesney outcoached Mack Brown in that spot. And now there's I think that it's not about like what, I don't know. I said this on Saturday night. There's always one game. There's always one game that lets you know it's like, okay.
I just don't think that they would fire him during the season if they let him come back after the past 4 years. Like, you had 2 first-round quarterbacks and you didn't win anything with them. So, like, I don't know. If they get rid of Mack Brown mid-season, like, that signals to me that Carolina might actually be serious about winning, because I don't find them to be a super serious program about winning.
Well, I was going to say, when was the last time they won anything?
Yeah,
like, he's got them competitive. He had them relevant. I mean,
it's a pretty big red flag when you underachieve that much for 4 years of first-round quarterbacks.
I would say having them 8 and 9 wins is probably where you should be.
I think
Chip
should apologize.
I don't think that's
for how bad North Carolina is under Mack Brown.
Think I should apologize?
I think you should apologize to the country on behalf of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Like, when you're just a really strong brand, there's just not consequences, right? You're just always going to be able to get all the support and recognition
and the ratings.
You're going to get the ratings. You're going to get the great time slots on the big channels. There's just not a lot of pressure. You just got to show up and slap the sticker on the side of the helmet, and in comes the money cannon. It's just kind of the way college football works, right? Isn't that it? Of note, Duke is on deck, and I do.
And they hate each other.
I do, and Manny and
man,
Mac fired Manny Diaz after Taysom Hill ran it all over Texas, and now Manny Diaz is a 3-point favorite against North Carolina. The battle for the victory bell.
Biggest game of the week.
Mac really does not want to lose this game, and I'm
They're
very
a dog to Duke.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Do you think there's a group text with like Manny, Jay Bateman, Gene Chizik? Who else am I missing here?
Muschamp's just down there typing in all caps.
Right. That got fired because Mack Brown can't run a serious physical practice. Right. Like, I mean, that's kind of the knock on them, is that they're just not serious with practice and discipline with it. So at some point, it's not the DC.
Do you think Jeff Collins got an invite on Sunday?
I mean, look, I don't think Jeff Collins was in demand. That's why I was very skeptical about these recent coordinator hires that Mac was making. It's like, damn, like I think people are going to wonder when he's going to hang it up, right? Coaches hear the same things that recruits do, that this guy's not going to be there for very long. I don't think they had a whole lot of options to go coach that defense in the offseason. I don't think that Jeff Collins is awful, but I also don't think he had like a lot of great options.
The Mac Brown versus Manny Diaz and the collision is too much.
Will they shake hands?
Yes.
They didn't last time.
Ooh.
Wait, in Miami, North Carolina?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to go back and look at that.
Oh, it's like sneaky nasty.
All right. What else? Tom, do you have Ohio State thoughts, or is that?
Yeah, it's nothing deep. It's just how boring they've been. Like, I was on Saturday, one of our editors behind the scenes look as Ohio State was dismantling Marshall. They were like, hey, maybe we could, do like a what have we learned about Ohio State so far this season? Like, he's pitched me the idea, and I was just like, nothing. We have not learned a damn thing about Ohio State so far this season because they haven't shown us anything. Like, if you go watch the games, Will Howard is not running. I think he has 8 carries on the season, and one of them was a sack. If you watch the Marshall game, it's a 3-yard slant to Igbuka, who then runs 70 yards without being touched. There's the Quinshon Judkins 70-yard touchdown run, which was just looked like a simple lead kind of handoff into the B gap in which he goes 70 yards without being touched. Defensively, they are just being vanilla as hell because they don't have to show anything. So it's like, I can't wait to watch Ohio State this weekend against Michigan State just because I feel like, oh, great, their season finally starts on Saturday. They might actually do something.
There are some games, conference games, that if you are to look at the spreads, look like non-conference games out of class.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State is a 25.5-point favorite on the road. Texas is a 38-point favorite on the road at Mississippi State.
Wait, that's in Mississippi State?
No, it's
sorry.
Yeah,
That's, I was gonna say that would be.
But the Ohio State Michigan State game is in East Lansing.
Blake Shapen's out for the year.
Yeah,
by the way.
So they're going to be really bad.
Or worse.
Yeah, I thought it was bad before.
Is it Parsons?
I don't know who their backup QB is.
What if anything can we take away from Kansas State's implosion against BYU?
Young quarterbacks struggle in tough environments and make stupid decisions. That's what my takeaway was. And BYU might just be better than everybody gave it credit for before the season, but that was a loud, crazy environment, and Avery Johnson looked lost.
A lot of them have. Like, this should really, I know we all get excited because a player flashes or he has a bowl game or he comes in and he gets one start and it's like, oh, this kid's going to be awesome. And then, and it's not only us, I think it's coaches too are ready to throw in the towel, and a lot of them very soon. Like, it feels sooner than maybe ever before based off those expectations, but this is kind of normal. That's why I get very tentative, like picking teams that have to do much when they are, and I think even like I'm regretting my pick to take Nebraska 7-0 to the shoe because Dylan Raiola did play like a first-year starter, and that was at home, but like you see some of those rookie-ish mistakes
Jackson
when they're
Arnold
in pressure. Yeah, exactly. Jack. I mean, there's a list. There's a long list of them.
It is all of the quarterbacks I talked myself into in June.
Right. Because they look good.
Hell, Nico didn't play all that well either. Tennessee won, but Nico didn't look great.
Right.
So,
and then you got a guy like Luke Altmaier, who's, 5th year playing college ball, but 2nd year in the system, and he's comfortable. He knows where to go with the football. He doesn't panic, like calm on the road.
So, I mean,
you guys asked a question real quick because it's on Kansas State.
No.
I heard you guys talking about would it make a difference? What's that?
You heard us talk about the beef burrito?
No. So
shout
you
out
guys
to BYU for tweeting that, by the way. That goes against type. I did not expect BYU's Twitter account to tweet Liv Moss based on what it was.
That was pretty nice.
You guys asked the question, would Oklahoma, would it have made a difference if Dylan Gabriel was there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys were all like, nah, probably not. Like, the offensive line is so bad. I think he would have been able to get rid of the ball, but who knows if he would have survived. Like, with Kansas State, that I think is a different question. I think Will Howard, they might have been able to survive that and win that game. I think that one will be a tougher loss for them than Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma. And both of them might regret it, this year. And it's decisions those coaches have to live with.
If you look at this game, I mean, I'm not going to say that this was entirely a fluke, but it was very fluky.
Well, it's all right before the first half. That was the thing, because I told you, y'all were giving me these updates during the show. So when I went back to review it, and I just saw how it was BYU, to Tom's point, BYU's probably better than any of us thought in July or August.
Defensively.
Sure.
Jay Hill is doing a really nice job with that defense. Kansas State had a 38% success rate on offense. BYU had a 31% success rate. And they scored on an insane punt return that the guy muffed. And it just took a crazy bounce that got everybody out of position, and on a fumble 6, right? Which we know is random and not repeatable and not skill. BYU's touchdown drives were 38, 27, and 29 yards. If they played this again tomorrow, I probably don't lay Kansas State -6, although that compared to what it closed, I probably should. What it closed, 7 juice, 7.5. But I would absolutely slam under again after watching this. I mean, that. Both these offenses completely sucked in this game. BYU played a hell of a game, but I don't think BYU is better than Kansas State, despite the fact they just won by 29. I would pick Kansas State, easy call on a neutral if they played again, because a lot of this stuff was really random and they got game scripted out of it.
But I will say that if as I start to judge BYU differently and hold them to a different standard, what's the freshman running back, Moa, right?
Yeah, he played well.
He played that was, and he had not been a part of the offense yet, and so you get a real test, and you get this freshman back kind of show up as a surprise. That seems repeatable. You got a pretty good young back who I think is only going to continue to get better. That's how you balance out a good defense if you're a team like BYU, is to be able to run the football and take care of it. And he looks like a player.
They're going to make a bowl.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
4-0 for the first time since 2012. We just got to go get 2 more.
Do they have any gimmies left?
I mean,
shoot. I mean,
they're closer, but in the random number generator that is the Big 12.
Oh, okay. They'll be favored against Houston. I think they're underdogs in all remaining games except for that one.
But how many are they underdog by more than a touchdown? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah. So
none.
At
Utah,
Baylor, they're
Golden
3-point dogs. At Utah, at UCF, they're clearly more than a touchdown. Hosting Oklahoma State, probably not after what we saw from Oak State. At Arizona State, I doubt it unless Arizona State takes a big step forward, or unless this offense just doesn't bounce back.
You have not adjusted your power rating for the fact that Cam Rising is dead, and that is an imposter.
This is interesting.
Yeah,
Leon's going to send his
would
thoughts
Utah
and
be
prayers.
more than a touchdown? Utah would be more than a touchdown hosting BYU without Cam Rising. I mean, that game closed. What it closed? Pick in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that implies that without Rising, they would be 7 points.
No. What Tom is saying is that we are in full Paul McCartney, Paul is dead territory, and that we have switched out Cam Rising for another actor who is got the long hair and the facial hair. I mean, easy to be able to
actually Adam Driver.
All right, I like that. Sure. Also, one last thing on the burrito. I don't know what's going to happen, but it does seem like he's owning up to this.
Liquid enema. Make the burrito look like it usually looks coming out going in.
We've got a hype video with "Welcome to the Jungle" playing in the background, and he rises up from behind the burrito with the Taco Bell bag on his head and sunglasses.
He's gonna get $1 million podcast deal out of this.
Look, I'm telling you, 3, 2, 1, Noel. This could have been you. This is how you spin it, and you end up coming out on top. This is how I win. Anything else from Fun Further Review before we get out of here? All right. Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Boys will be live on CBS Sports Network, getting the table set for the week ahead. That will include big game breakdowns for, of course, Illinois at Penn State, and big time on CBS as Wisconsin goes to play USC. Also, a lot more as we continue to get things set. And it will be available on demand on youtube.com/cover3 and wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back live on YouTube on Wednesday for big game breakdown, which will include a small college football contest that no one has talked about at all and that we actually didn't mention once on this show. I guess we can give Georgia, Alabama a few minutes.
Yeah. Why? It's a meaningless game.
In the playoff era, expanded playoff era, it is meaningless.
There's no punishment for losing.
There you go. Absolutely. So, yeah, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, big game breakdown. Get you set for that. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Kanell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Resume loss season.